Hey, happy Sunday night to everybody out there and unlock the middle land. Another night, another episode of Getting Better Together. My name is Dean Packard, the principal of Charlton Middle School in Charlton, Massachusetts. Alongside of me, I have Chris, I have Josh, and we've got a couple of guys in the back room ready to come out and start talking about something really special. Listen, Sunday nights are made for getting better together, and that's what we're all about. So great to see you guys first and foremost. Chris, kicking it over to you, man. How are you?
Dean, Josh, great to see you guys tonight. Hey, daylight savings time is always a rough one in the in my household.
Understood.
Between the dogs and dance competitions this morning, I'm feeling it today. But I am here and primed up, ready to go and get our week started. Because what starts our week right? A Sunday night thinking about topics that are relevant and timely to our professional improvement, and it's a fantastic way to do it. Josh, what's going on, my brother?
Hey, greetings everybody from North Dallas here. Josh the Water Proud Principal of Memorial Pathway Academy. Here getting ready to slide on here nice and slow into our spring break. We did spring forward. It is what it is, enjoying that one less hour. But you know what? We have a whole week to recharge and refresh the batteries. But before we do that, just like Chris and Dean said, let us know where you're coming from and let's learn from each other. It's crucial that we take this time to reflect. There's always time on social media, YouTube, Twitter, to learn free. We don't have to pay $124 per night at a conference. We don't have to pay $328 for a registration fee. You know what? All this is free. And it's crucial that we take these opportunities to learn from each other. So we're ready for the fourth quarter. It's around the corner, baby. Fourth quarter, we're going to finish strong. So let's get ready for tonight's topic.
Absolutely. And before actually we bring our guests in, just as Josh said, we are streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. And again, please let us know where you're from. And if you get a chance to chime into the conversation, please do so. It's on Sunday nights, we bring in experts from around the country. And if you got questions for them, ask. That's why the forum has been set up. Hey, Chris, I'm going to kick it over to you just to kind of introduce our guests and bring them in. And then we'll get this party started.
Sounds great. Well, hey, it's my pleasure to bring in representatives from STOPit Solutions, Dean. We've got the CEO, Parkhill Mays, and the Chief Resource Officer, Kevin Askew, who are going to be joining us tonight. We'll be talking about school security solutions, everything from physical to mental health to cybersecurity in some capacity, and thinking a little bit differently about what it is in our world that we look to support and look to ensure each day, the safety of our kids, faculty, and staff.
Welcome, gentlemen, and in no particular order, just get a chance to introduce yourselves and tell a little bit about what you do.
Sure. Hey, thank you very much for having us. We appreciate it. We're probably not as radio smooth as you folks, but we're going to do our best. And the good news is we're both aligned to really help address these issues. School safety, that's what we get up for every day. My name is Parkhill Mays. I'm a founder in our organization, STOPit Solutions. We like to call it STOPit. And we do that because we like to stop bad things from happening. I run the organization. I do a lot of traveling, getting out there to visit our customers, speak in certain circles where we can make a difference, spreading the good word about school safety and more recently mental health. And won't be traveling this week, thank goodness. We'll get a chance to catch up. But we have an active travel schedule and conference schedule coming up. And hopefully we'll get up to your part of the country in the Northeast very soon. I'm coming to you from south of New York City. Freehold, New Jersey is where we are.
Nice. Well, welcome. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about the entire product line.
Great.
Kevin, you're up.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everybody, and thank you to Dean, Chris, and Josh for having us this evening. I too come from south of New York City, a little bit further south than Park Hill, down in Ocean County, and really excited to be here with you. I've been in the IT industry for the better part of the last 30 years, but within the last 5 years, really focusing on technologies that have an impact and make a difference. And being part of the STOPit team is a fantastic opportunity to have an impact on the lives of students, staff, and parents. So very excited to be with you this evening.
Good stuff. Well, welcome to the show. Josh, why don't you start us off? You'll take topic number one.
Well, right now, with all your experience that you have, and we know that technology is something that is really so important right now with coronavirus. We all went Google Meets, we all went Zoom. We did all these things, a new way of teaching. That's why we're so blessed to be in such a beautiful profession where teachers just turned the switch and readjusted their pedagogy using technology, apps, wireless. But then we saw a lot of things that came in negative with that we were not prepared as educators. We're ready to teach our students, yet the noise, I always call it the noise from the tech world is out there. So what do you feel right now after 2 years of this disease, worldwide disease going around? What do you feel the state of our schools are in regards to technology and the noise that's out there?
So, Josh, there's never been so much funding for school safety products, and every vendor in the world knows that. I think that contributes to the noise. Couple that with record teacher retirements. Teachers don't have time. They certainly don't have time for new programs and new platforms. So those are the two major states of play that converge and really combat one another. The way we handle that is you have to look at time-saving solutions. You can't introduce new solutions if they're going to take more time in this day and age from an administrator. It's time they don't have in their schedule. Your days are mapped to the nearest 5 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, and you don't have room for more programs. So I think any solution out there to cut through the noise needs to save time, needs to have implementation services, and needs to be effective without necessarily creating more work for schools to manage. They are out there, believe me. The better ones cut through the noise in that way. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, and I'd just like to just add something there, Josh, on top of what Parkhill said, right? All of these things have been compounded by COVID, right, in the last 2 years. But for us, it's not about products and customers. It's about providing solutions to partners, right? And we treat our customers as our partners. We work in partnership with them to build the best solutions to provide safety and security for their students, staff, and parents.
When you say there's a lot of other products and with all this money out there, for somebody that's not as well versed in your industry, what do you mean by that? For the administrator that's their first year as a principal of a middle school with 1,000 kids, what does that look like? Well, can you explain it to me? And as I always tell people in my campus, in caveman terms, because I'm working with my abacus right now. So can you educate me?
I can. I'm going to pull up something to look at here, but we like to look at school safety, and let's call it school safety and wellness in 7 areas. Having some communication vehicle, some reporting tool is absolutely necessary for students, a way for them to reach out for help. And honestly, they're not going to do this. They're not going to call you on the phone. I hate to say it, they're not going to talk to the cops either. So some device, whether it's text or some way for them to confidentially communicate, absolutely mandatory. Add to that some form of monitoring, some way to make sure that the truly bad stuff, which happens in the middle of the night, gets addressed. It's not the next school day, not the next business day, it's pronto. So you need some form of emergency management service to make sure that the problems that are out there get addressed. And then let me add one more area. There's a bunch of areas, but the other area is learning. Mental health issues, there are new ones. I mean, I was even reading, honestly, about sibling sexual abuse, which has finally made its way into a measurable thing. That's horrible. Things like that are occurring, training and education with really any platform, any form of service that touches all of your students and faculty. Make sure there's an education component. That could be LMS driven. It could be live. It could be live virtual. That type of solution is vital to go along and address today's issues. So those are kind of 3 of, I'm not going to go through 7. That's too many. Those are 3 vital components that I like to see in most any school system, elementary and up.
And I think that's very important too, Josh, what Parkhill just said about learning. And what we're seeing too is not just learning for the students, but learning for the staff and learning for the parents, because children can't learn if they don't feel safe, right? Whether that's at school or whether that's at home. And it starts in the home, and making sure that somebody is looking out for those who are looking out for the students, I think is something that's vitally important.
Yeah, Kevin, in your experience with IT, and Parkhill, I'm sure that you can contribute to the conversation. This is your world. Thinking about the technology, you had referenced, simple opportunities and options for kids to report confidentially. The reporting system. Dean and I both went through a school threat situation about a few months ago. Feels like it was a year ago now, Dean, where there was a threat. It was posted on social media. It was nondescript, but it mentioned my school's name, and it was from our region. It ended up not being anything, and of course we handled things as we need to, go to our old SOP and set up our incident command and work with local authorities, and we know all the mumbo jumbo. But what was interesting to me, I was contacted by a school in another part of the country that utilized an anonymous reporting system, and one of their students had seen this on social media, 20 states away, and an organization actually reached out to me to report that they had been contacted by an anonymous report. So I know that technology is out there. I'm also wondering about what other types of technology tools that you have or have had experience with, and what you could share to let us know a little bit about it.
Sure. So anonymous reporting is the core component of our portfolio, and that's great to hear that that you heard it from 20 states away that there was a potential threat against your district. That shows that platforms like ours work, right? They're important. They give the students a safe environment and a safe platform to report something or to voice a concern that they wouldn't normally be willing to do, right? By walking into an office or picking up a telephone.
So, Chris, adding to that, about 3 years ago, we had an incident which occurred in Virginia that was picked up by, interestingly, a principal from a middle school in Texas, Frisco. You're very aware of them, just north of Dallas. That child was in trouble, happened to get a hold of Frisco's version of STOPit, reached out for help. The principal and guidance counselor had presence of mind to realize that was not their child. Even through anonymous solutions, the platforms are smart. Ultimately, they were able to seek enough information to report to local authorities. They went to the home, and the young girl had overdosed at the time and saved her life. We actually flew to Frisco and gave those folks the STOPit Lifesaver Award at the next school board meeting. It was really cool, but it goes to show you that a connected platform can be very, very powerful, and it can save a life, or maybe in your case, Chris, could have averted a threat. Hard to prove exactly what didn't happen, but the fact that people are speaking out with information, that's what these systems are designed to do. They put hundreds of risk managers in a school at one time. That would be the students. And it takes one to do this with their thumbs to get a piece of actionable info out there to where us adults can take action.
So if you look at the entire platform, obviously from a technology standpoint, it's you make the country a small country. You bring people together, you network, you create a very small fairway to help maintain safety. Talk a little bit about your your offshoot into the mental health sector of what you do and why it's so important for your company to take the reins and try to be part of this as well. Coming out of COVID, we've seen a lot of, we call it social emotional imbalances with kids across the board, and their reconnectivity with their learning has been tough and for a lot of kids. And we see that. I don't care if you're in Mass, Texas, Florida, California, getting kids reconnected with this learning journey has been hard. How can your company help out with this?
So, Dean, about a year ago, and certainly continuing throughout 21, we woke up and realized that 80% of the incidents going through our platform are about students and even families asking for help. That's really what it is. The incident types have, although school safety threats have not gone away, we see that in the recent shootings. Statistically, the mental health issues are 80% or more of what is reported in our platform. We took notice of that. We got a little help from our cadre of team members, board members, advisory board members. No one in particular is on the podcast tonight. And we thought, there's plenty of resources out there. We have to make connections of those resources to people who need them. So we started producing solutions that really reinforced those connections. We published them directly on our app so that you can see where the nearest food bank might be, where how to get shelter, how to deal with food insecurity, how to get medical attention, bringing those resources and working with districts to actually weave those into their version of our application. That's what we did. So the way we approach mental health is connecting resources to people in need, first and foremost. Yes, the reporting solution is there. You throw in an immediate crisis solution for those that are in personal distress, and you have a solution that really speaks to more of a mental health theme than it does a school safety theme. Similar types of issues, just speaking to folks the way that they want to be spoken to today. So that's what we've done. We rebranded the solution to make that happen and just migrated some of the traditional tools to reinforce that there are resources that can come and help you when you need it.
Can you actually elaborate just a little bit on that, if you can? Just because my mind is a building leader. What does it look like? We have student support teams in place right now that deal in the moment with kids who are in crisis. What can STOPit do from an SEL component, social emotional learning component, to aid and assist school student support teams?
So the first thing you can do is you can push out immediately the dangers of vaping. Very common video. Small video that gets pushed out to students who hold the mobile app. You could also push out content that speaks to a mental health issue, depression, any topic as well. There's 4 ways to distribute SEL content, but most importantly, you can start a conversation. Getting someone to speak up and really talk about their issue, being willing to come in for an appointment or go see mom or dad, or make an appointment with a therapist. Just getting someone to speak up with their thumbs is vitally important. So that's what we do, Dean.
Okay.
But we can push out and distribute content. We can start conversations, and we can escalate to crisis resources. We do have a means by which to reach students who are in trouble, who are unwilling to help themselves. We do have those means as well. We don't leave principals and school officials without the means to act if you absolutely need to. But starting a conversation and holding a conversation usually leads to a remedy and a resolution.
Kevin, from a marketing standpoint, what does that conversation look like with a principal or a superintendent or a school board?
Well, from the SEL standpoint, and it's not even all just about SEL. It's about mental health, right? Mental health and SEL. And it's really about the content delivery. So it's the relevant content in a way that is digestible, right? For them to receive it in a manner that they feel safe to engage with it, right? And so, we talk about these things all the time, right? It's about meeting them where they are, right? And if they're comfortable in where you're meeting them, their capacity to learn and absorb things is that much greater.
So I'm going to stop you for a second. And I just put out a video today about kids letting noise go and not being unbalanced and focused on being a kid. Talking about meeting kids where they are, that is so important. That goes out into a weekly email to all of my students so they can hear from their principal's voice some advice about just being a kid. So that's how powerful this little thing here is.
And it's as powerful for educators and parents as well as it is for the kids, because educators and parents are on the go all the time, whether they're running students around or whether they're running back and forth to work. So meeting them also in that same way to deliver that is important for them too, because it's hard to say to somebody, hey, you know what, go find some time to log into this website and do this and sit down and do it, versus, hey, you know what, if you get 5 minutes, here's a small mindfulness exercise that you can do that helps you deal with either stress or anxiety or any of these other challenges that educators and parents just deal with on not even a daily basis, but on an hourly basis.
That's fair. It's a great answer. And you're absolutely spot on when you say that. And how cool is that to have that at your fingertips, to be able to do it at your will and your need? So the concept is pretty neat. Josh?
So let's go back to my abacus here with the caveman in Texas. Since I'm not in our district, we're not well immersed in STOPit. If you got to be hooked in right now, what would I present that to my area superintendent? How would I present that to our superintendent in regards to what your program brings to the table?
So, and I can help there, Josh. 300 districts today in Texas use our platform. Basically, it's a simple, fast, and powerful way for a student in distress to reach out for help quickly and anonymously. They do it with their thumbs. If it's an everyday incident, if it's Susie stuck her tongue out at me, something like that, which is not frequent, but it does happen, we're not going to address that in the middle of the night. If it's an emergency, you will have eyes on every incident all night, every night, over the summer, over holidays, and that incident will be escalated to your predefined emergency contacts immediately. So you're not going to have to worry about someone, God forbid, killing themselves in the middle of the night without some attention going to that. So that's the value proposition, is to give kids a way to provide information about themselves or others that may be in harm's way and have immediate attention on it. That's the real value proposition. If you extend that, you have a way to hold conversations with kids. You can follow up anonymously through the platform the next day, the next week, the next month. If you're in law enforcement, there may be an investigation. If something goes to legal, there may be an investigation. Typically, you don't have these egregious things happening without people know what's going on. Just because it's anonymous doesn't mean you don't know what's happening. And the reason is more often than not, it's the bystander who reports. It's the bystander.
And just to adding up, I'm sorry, Parkhill.
I was just going to say a very common incident is, can someone help my friend Mary? I think she's cutting. Very, very common. So, that probably, tells you what we can do with a platform like that.
And just to add on, some of the things that we've seen is, some of the stats are pretty staggering. We know that 85% of student incidents are witnessed by a peer, right? 70% of students who commit suicide give some type of advanced warning signs. However, what we've also learned is only 20 to 30% of those incidents are being reported to adults, right? And there are reasons why. Students are afraid, or they don't understand or recognize the signs or signals. They don't feel comfortable calling 911 or talking to an adult, right? they don't know who to tell because they think potentially nothing's going to be done about it. Or they just choose to ignore it because someone else is gonna step up and say something, right? And it all goes back to providing that safe environment to not call somebody out, but to voice a concern about a friend or themselves.
So did I understand you correctly? What you do is somehow you also track the data in regards to Josh just being silly about it, for lack of a better term, my words, being silly about it and reporting something at 1 a.m. because I was tired of doing TikToks. So I wanted to mess around because I know kids don't do that. 1 a.m. TikToks, and then they decide to mess around. I know no kid does that. But if STOPit sees that it's really not a valid situation, then do you keep track of Josh doing this like at 2 a.m, 3 a.m?
So Josh, that's called a false report in our book. Statistically, when we launched our enterprise class platform in 2015, 14% of all incidents were false, not unactionable, but false, a hoax. Today, it's less than 1%. We've got a best practices out there to really help guide administrators through getting high quality reports. Some admins want everything. They want absolutely everything. There's a protocol for that. Others only want the highest quality. There's absolutely a protocol for that. Just make no mistake, we don't track people. We'll track a device, meaning that we know what device submitted an incident. We don't know who it belongs to or where it is. We don't use location services. There is an IP address. That IP address remains live for 7 days before we destroy it. And that's our barrier for confidentiality and anonymity. But the system is smart. You leave footprints in the snow, we're likely to find them through traditional means, just using features of the platform. We don't know that it was Josh because STOPit is not registered. You don't have to give your name or any form of PII, email or otherwise, to use the platform. But the system's pretty slick. Typically we can deactivate you. We can use patterns to track other incidents that may lead us to you. It's pretty slick, and you usually do not find these egregious things happening without being able to do something because of the smartness of the platform. Hopefully that helps.
A question that I have for you, Chris, before you go, in regards to your website, is it stopitsolutions.com?
Mm-hmm.
It is.
That's
and on
right.
your website, you have an active website that can lead you to answer any questions that you might have. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Product and service oriented, crisis center oriented. There's some learning content on the website. There's an awful lot more that comes through our platform.
Okay. So what I might try to do is pull up your website so the viewers can see what that looks like and share the screen. I'm asking my technology guru, Principal Chris Starcheski of Dudley Middle School, if you need any technology help. He's pretty good at that. So while I do this, and in the meantime, just, help me out here when I start thinking about crisis management. We're sitting down talking with police and fire, and we're talking in the beginning of the year. We sit down a minimum once a year, twice a year, just to go over our crisis plan. This app, and I assume it's probably an app on the phone. Am I correct?
It's one of 3 ways to report. It will get 80% of all incidents.
Okay. This app is so user-friendly that it's easy for anyone to follow, I'm sure. What I did in our school this year, and I thought it has worked out really well, is we created a Google form with somewhat of what you're saying right now. A little, probably not quite as easy to operate, but what we'll do, the kids can have access to an adjustment counselor 24/7 in a tiered level of support as it's needed, which is kind of cool. And it goes right to the adjustment counselor's phone, my assistant principal's phone, whenever they're in trouble. Do they need immediate attention? Can they schedule an appointment for tomorrow, or is this something they could put off for a little while? So I would assume that what I created in our school is probably something similar, but not to the depth of what your platform provides. Would that be a correct assumption?
It is, Dean. I think the differences are going to be in the back end. The feature rich. We have two-way anonymous chat back with the person that that filed the incident. You could escalate and assign to other administrators through our back end. So in concept, it's going to be very similar to that. The difference will be the features and the usability and just the efficiency by which you're able to resolve. And then from the reporting standpoint, we have some pretty nifty reporting on that data. Over time, it gets pretty impactful. So those are a few of the differences I would suspect.
Yep. Love it. I love it. So here's your website
right there. It's the incident management system.
Yep. Pretty neat. That's good stuff, actually.
Hey, Dean,
yeah, go ahead, Josh.
Rich just put up a question. How often do you work with the districts and their legal department to coincide both the program that you have with STOPit and district policies? Do you want to put that one back up, Dean? What Rich just posted?
Sure.
Do you work hand in hand with legal, with the district policies and procedures?
So really, there's two levels. On an incident basis, on an issue that happens probably between 6 and 12 times every evening. On a policy basis, making sure that the data privacy and issues like that are addressed. I'm going to say 1 in 10, 1 in 15 customers or prospects goes to that level. For the most time, we're able to carry that conversation with a superintendent and come out pretty successful. The larger districts, they'll typically have an attorney look at it. They'll typically have a conversation around, what if, I need to pull some data or absolutely get all the information you have. This is all proceduralized, and we'll hold that conversation probably, once every dozen times with school districts who want to sign up for the platform.
What's the biggest district that you serve in regards to the number of students?
We have some in the 80 to 90,000 range. As I mentioned earlier, Frisco ISD is a customer, around 65, 70,000 students. Over on the East Coast, we've got some in that size. California is a large state. We serve cities like Anaheim. We serve cities like Buffalo. We serve cities, Oklahoma City, and a bunch of them. Just looking at our customer base the other day, we serve about 103 districts above 10,000 students. We also serve teeny tiny districts in Texas, Josh. We serve teeny tiny districts in Alaska, North Dakota, in the rural areas, in the tribal areas, New Mexico. We're in 49 states right now. We have a different team that addresses the needs of big districts. It becomes a bit of a management exercise when you roll out to 75,000 students and 100 campuses. We have a different team that addresses the needs of a 300 student district. It may have the same building, elementary, middle, and high school. Much simpler to roll out, can be done in a few days. Typically for the larger ones, you're talking about planning, communicating, training sessions, multiple training sessions, so that everyone knows what to do. We're very good at that.
So, gentlemen, we know that technology is in the world. It's certainly transformed how we're doing business. I'm thinking of a couple of things. I was looking at your website and I noticed some fantastic information and great partnership opportunities. Obviously you're a business out there, but you're looking to put a great product in place, to help us catch up with the world of technology. Education is not exactly quick to change. This is an opportunity for us to jump on the train. What is the future hold, and where are some next steps that you envision, all schools partnering and all schools adopting?
Kevin, you want to take that one?
Yeah, moving forward, we're going to continue in our space to look to add value and fill the gaps, right? And you mentioned technology, and we talked a lot about technology this evening, but I want you to think about technology is only one piece of the puzzle, right? Because it is also about engagement, right? So take a look at school safety as a whole. It's not defined by one product, one process, or even one person, right? It has to be comprehensive. It has to be integrated. And it certainly requires the efforts of students, staff, parents, implementing innovative solutions, right, to be able to deal with the challenges and the needs and everything that comes with school safety and security these days. And a wise man told me recently that you'll see a student go into school, right? And he's got a backpack on with his books and his supplies, but he's also carrying an invisible backpack, right? You don't know what our students are carrying in addition to their books and supplies when it comes to their mental health, when it comes to troubles at home, right, that have just been so compounded by COVID. So for us, it's really about partnering, and I talk about this all the time, partnering with the schools that we work with to provide the things that they need, because at the end of the day, it's not about us, it's about them.
Kevin, can you look at the question here by Richard and just try to unlock this or unpack this for him a little bit here? Upstander versus bystander.
Absolutely, right. So an upstander is, there's a difference. There's a difference between an upstander and a snitch, right? The students that engage with our platform are upstanders because they show a concern for their fellow students, whether it's, they know their friend Johnny's parents are going through a challenge at home. So maybe the report is, hey, Johnny's having a hard time at home. Please handle him with care today, right? An insight that administration and their homeroom teacher or any other teacher who would engage with Johnny wouldn't know if not for that upstander sharing that concern about their friend.
Ever so important. We sit down and we talk about, the importance of being an upstander and the importance of treating one another with kindness and the like, and really figuring out how to best communicate. No matter how good a relationship that I have at the front door, or Dean or Josh has at the front door with the kids, we're still adults and we're still educators. We're still principals. It's a challenge to get them sometimes to open up, even though we've got great trusting relationships. And, we pride ourselves on that in all three of our campuses. But if something like this can make the difference for even just one student to be able to open up had they not chosen to, that could mean the world and honestly the life of one of their peers or themselves. This is truly special and fantastic. Say, gentlemen, we've been talking for a while with you. I'm curious about, if you had anything that you'd like to interject that we haven't touched on that's really important to this, your business or to the product.
Well, so I have a question. We know very well what happens in Texas. We've got a lot of eyes and ears and feet on the ground there. What's happening in the north, in New England? I'm going to assume that you're representative of the rest of the country in terms of the issues. We don't have as many schools in Massachusetts, that area. Are you seeing mental health dominating the landscape?
Yep.
Sorry. Yeah.
No problem. Money's being poured into it. Our Department of Education has offered grants called SO2, SO3 monies, where we're allowed to be able to utilize funding to help deal with the social emotional need of kids in any other area in schools to catch up from post-COVID. So there are monies available for it. You know, your product itself is not something that has crossed my radar, unfortunately, right now, because I like what it stands for. It does put an ease of operation into effect. And I would take the question and kind of spin it back to you guys a little bit, and just say, how could anyone in the Northeast access your company, and who would they get in touch with? And talk a little bit about what that looks like from a financial part for districts, but more importantly, you know, how to open up that door.
Sure. Well, so on our website, you're going to see this yellow button that says learn more, probably on every page multiple times that you go. That's the easiest way to get to us. The phone, the email, the form is always answered all the time. In terms of what it looks like in terms of funding, you mentioned ESSER. Honestly, there's so much school safety funding out there. That is not the problem. There are any number of programs. Stop School Violence Act, favorite way for us to go to business in Texas. Josh, we service 2 large federal grants down there, and in 19 other states. We have insurance relationships which fund STOPit. If you're paying for it, you know, through these funds and actually putting a price tag to it, Dean, think about $1.50, $2 per student per year at scale. You know, that's probably a good benchmark. It gets less expensive with scale and bigger districts. That's training scale, if you will, to be able to spread the word off across a larger platform much more efficiently. But honestly, the funding, here it is right there on the screen, any number of ways, and we know how to find it. We have a government affairs team. Most larger districts have one. We work hand in hand to make sure that that's funded. I can't think of a recent example where it was not affordable in some way to a district. It just doesn't cost that much. When you talk about $12,000 and up in most New England states that they spend on public education, $1 or $2 is typically a rounding error. The time of year may affect this, you know, if it's budget season like now versus when the budget is already set, but we're typically able to find the money. That's usually not the issue.
I love the idea of the grants, because if you have a grant writer in a district, you can find money out there to support almost anything if it's targeted and you know it is part of your improvement plan. So again, when I'm talking to my school council and we're talking about how to ensure that we close the fairway of ensuring that kids are safe and that they have a unique pathway to do so, you know, a platform like this is a good thing to look at. It truly is. And sometimes that's a year out in the planning. But at the end of the day, you get to the end of the means by that type of proper planning. There's no doubt.
We already have funding sources. I don't want to say at our beck and call because, but we have funding sources open and available in 35 states that we can place districts with. So that's helpful in many regions of the country. Usually don't have a funding issue, though, in those that we don't have funding sources. It's a matter of really engagement. Kevin mentioned that word earlier. We need to make sure you're going to use it. It's very easy to say, hey, this is a good idea. Let's sign up. You need an implementation team. We do most of the work. We need someone to talk to. So that's really where the rubber meets the road, is making sure you want it. If you want it, we're going to find a way to get it in your school without worrying about the money too much.
Chris, what did I miss? If you had something you wanted to add.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to unmute. The dogs were barking in the background a little while ago. You know, we've got a question up on the screen from Richard Allen asking, or it's not up on the screen yet. There it is. Could you guys talk about the Help Me solutions beyond what we covered as well? I assume Help Me is a little bit more about the kiddo reaching out saying, hey, you know, I'm having these thoughts or I'm having these concerns, and how that process works, who gets informed and notified.
Okay. Kevin, you want to take that?
Sure. So Parkhill had mentioned a little while back, just talking about the piece of our solutions that create those connections and linkages. right, for students, family, and staff searching for basic need resources, right, whether that be food or shelter or medical attention. Folks are not comfortable walking into, you know, a principal or even a social services office sometimes and saying, I need help. This also provides that safe platform to be able to do that, but also provides immediate help for personal crisis, 24/7, 365, as well as linkage to any local, regional, and national resources based upon where they are geographically.
It's also a softer brand, Chris, than a traditional school safety brand. When you talk about mental health and families, we know that schools are now far more concerned with their families, because if the families are not regulated, guess what? Learning becomes more difficult. So we know which way the wind is blowing there. So we have a softer approach to addressing those issues and taking resources which exist in droves out there, but making sure there's a place that can aggregate those and get those in front of your students, your family, and your staff. Don't forget your staff. Staff are having a hard time these days. Don't know about Massachusetts, but the rest of the country, record retirements. And those that are there, they just got COVID. So half of them were out. The other half of them are stressed. And they're self-medicating a little bit more. So we're hearing. So this is as much about the staff as well. But it's a way of exposing resources that exist in an easy to find location where people can get help. That's what it is.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
it really does. And I can see that your growth has been something that's been really, jumped on board with. I mean, because it makes sense. You put together a practical plan that is good for kids, it's good for families, and it's good for schools. So, yeah.
We think so. Gosh, there's some awfully bad things happening out there. And we like to feel that we make a difference with some.
Principal Tovar, anything else you want to add?
Well, I appreciate the abacus, advancing some of those pegs on the side. Thank you for the knowledge. I appreciate that. I became a little bit more well-versed on STOPit. I think it's a valuable program that I think that a lot of schools here in Texas, like you said, are been using, but I could see why. So thank you very much for enlightening me. Thank you, Parkhill. Thank you, Kevin, for giving us that wisdom, because it's a crucial thing. Those of us, with my experience, having been in a 6A school with 2,500 kids, and the noise that's out there that the kids bring in from their neighborhood sometimes is very ugly. And so COVID did not take away the noise that's out there in the streets. And so it's a program like this is something that's very valuable for not only middle schools that are 1,000 like you guys, but also for these huge monoliths in Texas that are 3,000 plus students. So it's a valuable tool to have at hand as an administrator and administrative team.
Thank you, Josh.
Agreed. All right, Chris, take us home, brother.
Wow. Kevin Parkhill, thank you so much for sharing the STOPit platform with us this evening. We learned a hell of a lot, and we're in the world of making sure things run smoothly and ultimately create a better society. And what better way to do that than to ensure kids and that with their physical and emotional and mental safety. You've got a great product that's out there. I hope there are some educators out there who are going to be learning about it tonight, reaching out to you, and who knows, maybe a little bit more air underneath the wings of STOPit.
We appreciate you having us.
Absolutely.
Letting us tell you more about it. And if anything, hopefully students, the advice here is don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to speak up. It can make a big difference in someone's life, maybe the ultimate difference. Don't be afraid to speak up. People are there to help you.
Perfect advice to close. Hey, everybody out there in Unlock the Middle Land, we're coming up on about a 50-minute experience with STOPit CEO Parkhill, Mays, and Kevin Askew. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Josh, Dean, as always, let's get down. Let's rock it this week. and
Thank
have
you.
a blast. Have a good evening,
forward to it.
gentlemen.
Much
you,
appreciated. Thank you very much.
Stay on for a moment, guys. We're going to sign off, and we'll see you Thursday night in the Red Zone. Another guest, and we're looking forward to that as well. So, hey, enjoy. Keep working to get better. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, everybody.